Let's talk about Impact here. This program. It was a disaster. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I mean, there was some decent wrestling on the show. There were some good interviews, particularly by Scott Steiner. And then it was a goddamn hideously written program. Is there anybody listening to this that has not listened to the Conan interview yet?
I haven't.
Well, you're an idiot. Go up there and listen to the Conan interview, and he has tales about TNA and how they would read criticism of the show and blame the writer. And, I think Conan just asked him, have you ever thought that maybe the show does suck?
Oh, they would blame the writer of the criticism.
Yeah.
I see.
These shows to them are masterpieces.
Of course.
I can't even believe that. I mean, I guess it would have to be true, because they keep churning out bullshit.
But I
mean,
say
how?
that for years. They think their show is good.
Like, how?
Well, they're not that bright.
How can you think the show's any good? I just don't understand. Like, I do shows every now and then that I realize are very bad. I don't fool myself. I write newsletters every now and then. I'm like, I tried, but goddamn, that issue sucked. I have shows where midway through I'm just like, this show fucking sucks. And sometimes, unlike Impact, it's the exact opposite. I'll get all this feedback about, wow, that was a great show. What a great interview. And I think, really? Because to me, that interview was like pulling teeth. I thought that interview sucked. I said that many, 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 many times. I've had matches I thought were god-awful. How can you produce such shit and think it's good? I don't understand it. I understand going to bed at night after writing these shows and thinking, I hit a home run there.
I don't know what you want me to tell you, dude.
I need some explanation of this. I understand, like, publicly, I don't do this. I try to be honest with my audience. But I understand going out there and trying to put on a happy face or trying to say that, we're proud of this. Every now and then there's like a bad movie and the director, usually like 10 years later, he'll come back and go, that was shit. But when they're doing their press tour and that sort of thing, the actors and the director, they'll come out and they'll say, really proud of this film. Really think everybody did a good job. Really think people are going to enjoy this movie. They're trying to put on a happy face. But, I think deep down they've got to know it sucked. Whereas these people, they not only put on this happy face publicly, but privately. Privately, they actually think that this is good, and the people that don't like it are wrong. I don't get it.
I like I say, man, I don't have an answer for you. This is what they want their show to look like. How they want their show to go. It has been that way for years.
Well, let's talk about it.
Maybe they watch a lot of E.
No.
So the standards of television are very low.
No. It's still, if you watch Holly's World, for example, when she goes back to see Hef before he gets married, there's still a fucking goddamn storyline right there. It's not like in the end, they use one girl at the beginning and then another girl at the end, which actually would make sense, quite frankly. But there's like a storyline thread that weaves through the television program. And, the acting may be horrendous or this and that, but the shit at least makes sense. You don't get any of that in TNA. I don't know. Begin.
Show opened with Bischoff and his crew in the ring. Eric Bischoff, how old is Eric? 50s?
He's in his 50s.
He's decided that in 2011, in his 50s, however old he is, it's a good time to grow out his hair. His hair is now long. It's like flowing down the back. It's like what Ric Flair wants his hair to look like. Mystifying to me.
Well, it's not mystifying to me at all. He was a karate guy in the 80s.
So he's trying to grow out a ponytail?
No, he's
like
just...
Seagal?
Well, that's a different thing entirely. But, you had all of those... You could still see guys that were karate guys in the 80s today. Long, gray hair. He wears his karate pants when he has a match. And his belt. I'll be like that someday.
Yes.
My dad kind of actually looks like that right now.
Much cooler.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So he's standing there in the ring. The crowd is chanting, "We want Flair." He calls out Scott Steiner. Steiner accepts the invitation, comes down and gets in the ring. Bischoff says that he's known Scott for too long, but he wants to put their past, have it be water under the bridge. He wants to talk business. Then he announced that Hulk Hogan is not there. Why? Because, in fact, in the court case of Dixie Carter versus Hulk Hogan, there actually has been issued a continuance.
Didn't I say last week that if they did this, I wouldn't say anything about them?
At some point you said that, yes. All right. You're going to have to go back in your word now?
Well, I'm just not going to uphold the stipulation.
Well,
it's only fair.
Taste of their own medicine, then.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
this show sucked a cock.
So a continuance has been issued.
They start upholding stipulations on their end. I'll start upholding mine.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He said Hogan won't be there. He said there was no they. Then he started talking about the people who would not be there. He talked about Kevin Nash. He said he told Kevin, do what's right for your family, get your action figure made, and make your money.
No, I'll give you the exact quote. Take the money, get your new action figure, dye your hair, and ride off into the sunset. Nash is a smart guy. That is exactly what he did. Because you see, that's a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah.
Let me read it one more time.
You're missing the part where you said, do what's right for your family, but the rest of it you have.
Let me read that quote one more time. He said that he told Nash to do what was best for his family. Quote, take the money, get your new action figure, dye your hair, and ride off into the sunset. Nash is a smart guy. That is exactly what he did. So,
the only logical thing you can infer from this...
in storyline...
Yeah.
Smart guys go to WWE and make money, and fools stay in TNA and remain broke.
Correct.
I swear to God, this is what this fucking fool said.
What is in storyline? That's what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So he then announced that Sting was not coming back. He said, Booker T, who cares about Booker? I would like
Way to get people excited for the future of your product.
I am curious about why Nash got the friendly farewell and Sting and Booker were buried, but who cares? He basically told Steiner that his options were to face Immortal and get his ass kicked, or join them.
Which is funny because I don't think Booker actually had a deal with TNA, and Nash had a verbal deal and still bailed on them.
Don't know.
And so he got a friendly send-off. That tells you something about Kevin Nash, everybody.
He is not stupid. He asked Bischoff asked Steiner to join them. Scott basically said no and ordered Eric to call him sir. And before anything could happen, Angle came out. He announced that they are here. And, they so far consist of Angle, Crimson, and Scott Steiner.
Why has nobody called the cops on Kurt Angle recently?
For showing up where he is not hired?
Okay, so it got a continuance. Could they not just say that Dixie announced that Kurt Angle is rehired? I mean, make something up.
There's the fire.
Make some fucking thing up.
There's a fired man who shows up in the building every week and gets TV time.
Yeah. Make a story up of some sort.
Music played.
I mean, the shit doesn't make sense anyway, so make something up. Who cares?
At least when Cena was fired and still showing up on Raw, the storyline was that all the sound guys, all the crew liked him, so they would play his music as a favor. The crew in TNA theoretically works for Eric. The Raw crew do not work for Wade Barrett.
Where's Gunner and Murphy to get rid of him? Oh, they're in the next match. Inc. versus Gunner and Murphy.
This happened.
Yeah. So, Gunner and Murphy were perfectly acceptable indie wrestlers here on national television. And Inc. made a comeback and won. So, yes, Gunner and Murphy are failures at literally everything they have ever done in TNA.
Yes.
Yet they are still bodyguards for Immortal and Fortune.
Yeah.
Now, why they haven't hired Inc. as bodyguard since they beat Gunner and Murphy, I don't know. I always thought the idea was like your bodyguard was a badass.
You would think.
Not in TNA. They're incompetent.
They're buffoons.
Yeah, they are buffoons. And they are the security crew.
There was a segment in here where it was backstage.
Which, by the way, makes these keels look like complete imbeciles.
Right. Which makes the babyfaces look like imbeciles because they can't beat them.
Just idiotic.
It's a giant clown show. There was a backstage segment where Jeff Hardy was telling Bischoff he was confused. He said Hulk was supposed to be back and he was supposed to get his title back. Bischoff said he couldn't do anything about the judge, but we'll take care of your title. Then he started asking where Flair was. Nobody knew. Mm-hmm. And then Kurt Angle and Scott Steiner walked in and just taunted them for a while, and nothing happened.
No one beat up Kurt. No one called the cops.
Nope.
He's just there.
He's just there. Then we got a segment where Kurt Angle, Crimson, and Scott Steiner are walking through the hallways. Kurt gets a phone call. Finds out they didn't really say anything. Just they're on their way, or they touched base or something.
It's still on.
It's still on. Then they went over their plan. The plan was Scotty would go to the ring, and Crimson would stick with Kurt.
That's the plan.
That is their plan.
And hey, they stuck to the plan. I think.
Actually, I don't think they were ever seen again.
Well, I know that. We'll get to the main event here in a while. Christy was
when is time?
Christy was in Texas outside the courthouse.
This was ruled. I hope that they just found a building in Orlando. For God's sake, they're on a studio. But in storyline, they flew Christy Hemme to Dallas to report on the trial between Hogan and Dixie. So they cut to Christy standing in front of a large legal-looking building. She speaks for perhaps 6 seconds, announces a decision on March 3rd, and they cut away.
Yeah.
I hope they actually flew this woman to Dallas, Texas for these 6 seconds of video. That would make me so happy.
Well, someone will probably have the answer tomorrow.
Let's see what we can do.
Eric said he saw but he couldn't say who they were.
It's
and
Eric
he said
Young, by the way.
A bunch of other shit. And
yeah,
it sucked.
nothing cares. We had MTV Cribs with the Jarretts. Mm-hmm. They went to Jeff Jarrett's house. Karen was there showing off the house. All his daughters were on TV. And they went to his office, and she was looking at it. He's got a framed picture on the wall of himself breaking a guitar over Kurt Angle's head. Karen showed that to the girls. They all laughed. They looked at other photos, and one of them said that their favorite was this one over here, and they said, why? And she said, because Dixie's in it, and just got angry. Said, don't talk about her anymore. You know better than that. And they all called him Daddy Jeff. And so I was a little creeped out by having these children made part of this wrestling story, but by the end of this show, I loved it. So,
well, this one sucked. The second one, I believe, was awesome. I don't know. The kids were awesome in the second one. The kids in the first one is just like, I hate kids being used in storylines that involve anger.
Yes. Okay.
Where Kurt's yelling at them and being mean to them. You know, I hate that shit. But the second one, which we'll talk about in a while, was actually fantastic. I just hated this one right here. And I believe one of Kurt's youngsters was there as well.
Yes.
To, the Brady Bunch now.
There's enough creepiness going on there. We had, so for the past, year, I guess, we've had these segments where two wrestlers will be talking backstage, and we would hear their conversation because there's a camera back there spying on them. So we've had to watch promos from like behind boxes or from around corners for a long time. So one of these cameras is shooting Ken Anderson, and he turns to it and cuts a promo. The hidden cameras are no longer hidden. He addressed Jeff Hardy, basically challenged him to get in the ring and speak before their match tonight.
Bully Ray came out and did a promo about how he was Team 3D. Devon was nothing more than a sidekick who got his tables. Said he had a new brother, a bigger, badder partner. It was the Pope. The Pope then cut a promo on Joe. And by the way, if Todd Martin is listening right now, I didn't bring this up today, but I am still waiting for the explanation for Pope and the mystery dogs. Remember that storyline?
I guess he was fighting dogs.
The charity or some such shit. Todd had faith that they were going to explain this. I said, of course they're not. Todd,
why? Todd's a smart man.
He is a very smart man.
Why would he make that foolish mistake?
Well, he made a foolish mistake here. So that's been completely dropped. And they basically announced that it was going to be Pope and Joe at the pay-per-view. So you'll never guess what match they did here. If you guess Pope versus Joe, well, they didn't do that. But they did do Pope and Ray against Joe and Devon, which arguably would be a bigger match. Now, as this match began, a mysterious Japanese fella randomly appeared on the ramp.
Yeah.
And without skipping a beat, Mike Tenay said, "It's Cicada, Samoa Joe's cameraman." Of course!
Right.
Of course it's Cicada. Joe's How fucking stupid of me to not know that it was Cicada.
Joe's cameraman.
God, I hate this show.
It was very, very bad. So,
I mean, he said this as if saying, hey, it's the ring.
it's Obama. He's the president.
It's Cicada, Samoa Joe's cameraman.
Yes.
Fuck off, TNA.
So, Cicada's at the top of the ramp. Joe is chasing Pope out of the ring. Pope sees Cicada. He is trapped. He looks at Joe. He looks at Cicada, Joe's cameraman. He jumps off the ramp and runs away. Joe and Cicada give chase. No one gives a fuck.
Of course not.
No one cares. So we're now left with Bubba Ray Dudley versus Devon Dudley. They are brawling on the floor. They are using chairs. They're using all kinds of weapons. And Mike Tenay then announces these two are going to wrestle on the pay-per-view in a street fight.
Now, some people are going to say, Brian, you do realize that Cicada was on the show last week. Yeah, for 1 second he was on the show. If you blinked, you missed Cicada last week. But fine. I will grant that Cicada, Samoa Joe's cameraman, has in fact been on the show before. However, after this match, when the referee decided that men needed to come out to break it up because it had gotten horribly out of hand, and by horribly out of hand, I mean Devon was punching Bully Ray, all these geeks come out and break it up, and suddenly Bully finds two black gentlemen in the front row, and he spits water on them, at which point Tenay, not skimming a beat, says, and I quote, "That's Devon's sons, isn't it?"
Yes.
Well, holy fuck! He's right. How did I not fucking know that those were Devon's sons? What a dumb shit I was.
This is the
And again, he said that as if to say, hey, it's the barricade.
Yeah, it was a self-evident truth that we all knew. Yes.
That's what I hate about this show.
This is what TNA does. They do not introduce characters and then have them interact. You see people interact, and then they are introduced.
I wish I could just examine Vince Russo's brain. Because it's like he's sitting there at home at night writing his script, and as soon as he decides that Devon's sons are going to be in the front row, as soon as that thought formulates in his head, his brain immediately assumes that now everyone in the world knows that Devon's sons are part of the storyline. He doesn't need to introduce them at that point. Everyone just knows. Like, there was another fucking thing on this show where they were talking about, what the hell was it? I think it was in the segment with Steiner, where, what the hell did he say? Oh, it was, I remember.
I have no idea.
Taz is sitting there talking. This is during the Gunner and Murphy match. And he says, we thought we knew who they were, but apparently we didn't. Now, I can only presume that Taz was talking about Nash and Booker T showing up at the Royal Rumble. So, I guess they now just assume that either everyone who watches Impact is a huge WWE fan, or everyone who watches Impact is on the internet all the time. And they feel no need to explain any of this. They have they feel no need to tell us what they're talking about. They're just these random lines that, you know, I don't understand these assumptions by them.
Well, most of their programs are built around acknowledging they are WWE's knockoff. Tara and Mickey's entire feud was about the problems they had at that other company.
I mean, sometimes Dave and I will talk about something on the show, and someone will be like, I wish you explained what you were talking about when you wrote that. And now, granted, on rare occasions, it has not been mentioned anywhere. But, I mean, there are 2 newsletters on this website. There are like 20 hours of audio every week, okay? Almost every story we talk about is either in a newsletter, in a news update, or has been talked about on a previous show. That is not the case with TNA. This shit happens all the time, where they just assume that everybody watching is taking copious notes. And keep in mind, I take copious notes, and I still forget half this shit. They think everyone takes copious notes on all of this stuff, and they remember all of this stuff, including stuff that they shouldn't remember because they've never been told about it in the first place. God, this segment pissed me off.
We had Jay Lethal versus Doug Williams versus Jeremy Buck in their the next round of their three-way tournament they're doing.
I mean, they couldn't even have Devon come out and slap hands with his sons and hug them.
Wait, how hard would it have been to show a 10-second video of Devon arriving at the building with his family?
Apparently way too hard.
Yeah. No.
Jesus.
So like I say, they must show the characters interacting first and then introduce them. Because it seems so obvious that I can't believe I have to explain this, but when you see an action to a character you don't know, you don't care about it.
You don't give a shit.
Whereas, if you were introduced to the character first, you have some connection with them. Then when someone spits beer on them, you think, well, hey, that's Devon's kids. They probably call that guy Uncle Bubba and have for all their lives. And then you immediately care. The way it was presented, Devon apparently just hates black guys, spat on them, and left.
Bully.
And then we were told, oh, by the way, that's Devon's kids. Then they moved on. Jay Lethal versus Doug Williams versus Jeremy Buck in the tournament. They had a fun match. The finish is the finish to every three-way ever. One guy hits his finisher. The third man comes in and steals the pin.
And by the way, we weren't told it was Devon's sons. Tanay said, and I quote, "That's Devon's sons, isn't it?"
Oh.
Is it? This is your job.
I guess he was asking us. Like we know what Devon's children look like.
And no, we wouldn't have any fucking idea who Devon's sons are. We just wouldn't, okay? We're not backstage at the goddamn fucking show. Go on.
So, yes, Doug hit the Chaos Theory suplex. Jerry and Buck ran in, kicked him in the balls, and stole the pin. So, there you go. We had Eric Bischoff pissed backstage. He still didn't know where Flair was. Robert Roode told him there was no they. They all told him to calm down. They left, and as they were leaving, AJ told Bischoff, everything's in control. We are in the driver's seat. Then he left. We had a Serena promo.
A big sigh.
You seem to have a lot to say.
It wasn't a bad promo.
She did fine.
But it was one of those promos that, like, you know, when you're an indie wrestler and you end up on a television show for the first time ever on public access, and they ask you to cut a promo for the camera, this is the one you do. You talk way too fast. You throw out a whole bunch of words, and then you wrap it up. And usually, you know, you do a second take. Not here.
Nope.
This was the one take. It wasn't horrible.
It was
but
okay.
Just wacky.
She promised to beat up Mickey tonight, so she might beat up Velvet Sky as well. Which is odd, because I don't think they're tag team partners, Mickey and Velvet. So
that's why when this was over, I said, is she facing Angelina? And you went, no, Mickey.
Yes.
I was like, so she's going to beat up Mickey James and then Velvet Sky?
Just
what
another
the fuck
random girl.
Velvet Sky have to do with anything?
Don't
and
know.
Velvet Sky didn't even end up being on this fucking show.
Can't argue. Can't answer your question. She also promised the debut of her cousin, Rosita. So that's something to look forward to.
I love how everyone who debuts has to be someone's relative.
Yes.
Like, Crimson is Red's brother, and now Rosita is Sarita's cousin. Mr. Anderson called out Hardy. Did a promo talking about the main event tonight. And, I don't know. I'd have done this last week, but what the fuck do I know about wrestling? So, the key was, Jeff said, we don't need... I don't need Immortal to beat anyone. I'll beat you tonight one-on-one straight up. Dedicate this match to my creatures of the night. Which, by the way, I guess the idea was he was supposed to be acting sincere, but then he said that in the most insincere manner possible. And then he said, may the best man win sincerely, which ended up being insincere, and they shook hands. Then we had the great segment with Jeff and Karen.
Gold. The Jarretts were having dinner, the Jarrett family. And before they began their meal, they all joined hands, and Jeff went through the children one at a time and asked, what are you thankful for? And I should have written some of these down. I hope you did.
Suffice to say, the key to this was cute because, like, none of these girls could keep a straight face.
Yes.
Some of them were outright giggling at the stupid shit that they had to say. So just, I am grateful for having the best daddy in the world. cackling at this statement they had to make.
I just like the one who went first. I believe the oldest, when she just said, "I'm grateful for being a Jarrett." Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
no one got yelled at here.
No one got yelled at. The kids were all thankful for the great work that Jeff did and how he took care of them and provided for them and how happy they were. And the youngest Angle son played with his Jeff Jarrett doll. And then they all had dinner, and Jeff talked about a surprise for later. This was great.
This was a U.S. version of a wacky lucha skit.
It was.
The other thing that people
made it great.
People have forgotten about wrestling is, you got to have good heels. You got to have people that you want to see beat up, just like any movie. You got to have a bad guy. You got to have good guys, and you have to have bad guys. And, well, first off, you don't even have that in TNA. That's a problem. But, with this skit, for example, the bottom line is that wrestling is supposed to be fun. Like, sometimes the bad guy is going to win, and the good guy will have to start a quest to win in the end and make a comeback or whatever the case might be. But at the end, overall, the product should be fun. And TNA never feels like fun. Everybody hates each other.
Yeah.
Everybody's always yelling. The girls are always screeching. The dudes are always bitching at each other. No one's ever a friend, It's such a not fun atmosphere. I mean, even Raw can be really, really shitty, and some of the skits, like with the midget and that sort of thing, are really dumb. But they try to make the show largely like a fun thing. And, sometimes they fail. Don't get me wrong. But when you go to like a live event, they go out of their way to have the even in a TV taping, they try to have the dark match at the end, where a dark match, by the way, is a non-televised attraction, either before or after a wrestling event, to warm up the crowd or something to send the fans home happy. Just want to throw that out there. But yes, to send that fans home happy, even if Raw goes off the air with Randy Orton laid out by some dastardly heel, when the TV cameras turn off, then Randy Orton, he pops up and the dastardly heel comes out and they have a 5-minute match and Randy beats him clean and everybody cheers and is happy and then they go home. It's supposed to still be entertaining and fun. And sometimes there are shows where it's not fun, but overall the product should be fun. And you never feel that with TNA. It never feels fun. Except the occasional show where there's like a lot of good wrestling, that's a good time. But like the TV show itself never feels like fun. It always just feels like sadness and despair permeate
like
this place.
Work.
Yes. Speaking of, Serena and Mickie James in a fucking tape fist match. Why? I have absolutely no idea why this was a tape fist match.
Okay, let's first of all discuss that. When was the last time there was a taped fist match on national television? I bet it's been definitely 15 years. Maybe at the end of Thunder or something. It's been a long-ass time. Okay, so at random, they're going to do one here with girls. Now, since many people listening have never seen a taped fist match, the idea is your fists are taped to A, protect your hand, and B, make it difficult to grapple with your opponent, so you're more likely to just punch each other. Right? Am I on the right track here?
Well, that's the idea.
Okay. So they get in their ring, they each have one fist taped, and they begin to have a match exactly like every other match they would have in any other night. They're not even looking at their hands. They're not even throwing punches. They're just doing spots off the ropes. They're just doing suplexes and lucha spots. Nothing. So they're doing this normal match, and then in the middle of the heat, Mickie lands one punch with her untaped fist. It knocks Serena out, and the match is declared over. Did I miss anything?
No, but I did love the idea that it's a taped fist match, and so the heat was gotten when Mickie punched the post.
Yeah, I did miss something.
Isn't the idea of the taped fist to protect your hand?
Yes.
I don't know.
This was one...
Seems kind of dumb to me.
Yeah! This actually offended me more than the thing with Devon's kids and not introducing them until after the fact. Just, none of this... I want to know the thought process behind a single part of this segment. I want to know.
I love that when Madison ran in afterwards and hit Mickey with a loaded glove. So, shouldn't that lead to a tape fist match? No, that's leading to last woman standing at the pay-per-view. Why?
Why?
No idea.
I'm getting angry the more I think about this. I want one illogical part of this segment. Not even all of them. I won't be greedy. I only want one illogical part of this segment explained. I wanted the thought process worked out in front of me.
Well, you're not going to get that, Vince.
I know. So, Jeff Hardy confronted Bischoff backstage, insisted he send no help out for the main event later. Bischoff was upset, but said okay. We had clips of the tour of Europe. Looked like a wrestling show. We had Jeff Jarrett surprise for Karen. First, actually, before that, it was announced that the girls, the Jarrett girls, had a show put on, a song and dance number, and Jarrett and Karen are sitting on the couch, and then Jeff's theme song starts to play, and the girls come in and begin to dance to it. This was awesome. I think I like this even more than the dinner prayer segment. But so they danced to this song, they all had a good time. Then later that night, Jeff had a surprise for Karen. It was a ring. He wants to renew their vows on Impact, and she said, of course, yes. So we have that to look forward to. I bet it goes badly.
I'm new to this wedding thing. I've been married 7 months and 4 days now. Which actually...
is longer than Jeff and Karen.
Is longer than Jeff and Karen. So either Jarrett is more romantic than me, which I find impossible to believe, or...
You should really be embarrassed about that.
They're rushing things here.
Yes.
They're renewing their vows after 6 months.
They're renewing their vows long before their first anniversary.
Is this normal behavior? I'm not renewing my vows at a wrestling show either, by the way. So I do win the romantic contest here.
So we had the main event of Mr. Anderson versus Jeff Hardy. It was actually funny because early on in the match, Jeff tried to get heat. He tried to be a heel. He grabbed a chin lock and laid there on the mat unmoving. The crowd was still chanting his name.
Of course.
Then later, they tried to trade punches to get the boo yay spot going, and the crowd got it right. They booed Jeff and they chanted yay for Mr. Anderson. Then they moved on from there. There were dueling chants of assholes suck and Hardy sucks. Mm-hmm. So they went from liking Jeff to liking Anderson to hating both guys, I guess.
I guess so.
So then there was a ref bump.
Of course.
Of course.
Oh, I forgot to mention my favorite hateable thing on this show. They're doing this deal. What's the name of the thing? Erase the hate.
Yes.
Unrate the hate. Erase the hate.
Unrate?
What is it called?
I believe it's Erase the Hate.
Is it Erase the Hate?
I believe that's right.
Now listen, I don't want to say anything bad about the campaign because I think it's obviously a good thing to do. But there's something really weird about an Erase the Hate campaign involving all of your heels. Particularly Jeff Hardy telling us to erase the hate when his fucking finisher is the twist of hate.
Yeah. Maybe if he had said, erase the hate except for Anderson, that guy sucks.
Baffled. Are there not enough baby faces on this show to do the erase the hate campaign that they have to use Jeff Hardy, of all people? I don't know.
Maybe they should get all the heels together to do a promo to promote hate. Anyway, the ref got bumped. All of Immortal came down, like 14 guys, whatever it is.
I got more nitpicking, by the way. I don't know if this is a nitpick or not, but I thought about this watching this match. So Bischoff is all pissed off that the court case has been continued. And I thought, shouldn't you be happy? Because I could have sworn for months the storyline was that we need to win all the belts so we have the power in this court case. So we have power when the decision comes down. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that they had a huge setback at the last pay-per-view, including losing the world title. So shouldn't he be happy that the case has been continued until they win the fucking belt back?
You asked me this. You asked me who's the TV champion or global champion, whatever it is.
I was trying to figure out the other ones, because I think they lost more belts, but I cannot for the life of me remember who any of the champions are.
I'm pretty sure Beer Money are the tag team champs right now.
Let's find out.
Kazarian is the ex-champ. I'm confident about that. But I believe Beer Money won the tag titles at the last show.
I think they did. They may be the only list of current champions in TNA.
But I am not sure. I want to make that clear.
The television champion is Abyss, who is currently dead.
Abyss?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
He beat Doug Williams at Genesis.
He did?
On January 9th, Vince.
I remember they had a match. It was not very good.
Mr. Anderson beat Jeff Hardy. Remember AJ gave Doug Williams the Styles Clash on his gimp hip?
And that
let
Kazarian win, right?
Abyss win, you jackass. Oh. Abyss versus Doug Williams.
No, I remember I remember the match they had because it was not very good.
Yes, and AJ ran in at the end and gave Doug Williams his move.
I see.
Yeah. Beer Money is the tag champs. Kazarian is the X Division champ. So they lost the World Championship. So anyway, shouldn't they wait until they get the championship back before the court case goes down? Shouldn't that be what they're waiting for? I don't know.
If any of it mattered.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. So they were beating up Mr. Anderson, and AJ said, hold him up, and somebody held him up, and AJ went to throw a punch, and then he stopped and threw up that wacky Fortune gang sign, and then the original members of Fortune, who, since none of you could possibly remember, are AJ, Kazarian, and Beer Money, they beat up the other guys in Immortal and send them packing, and then they stood there next to Anderson, who I guess is their friend now. And that segment ended, they went to commercial. When they came back, AJ obviously said that they. Bischoff came storming down the ramp all pissed off. He passed the rest of Immortal, including maybe the only really great thing about this segment, in fact, for sure the only great thing about this segment, which was Matt Hardy screaming, and I mean screaming, bastard, over and over again. I laughed. So AJ called them ingrates, Bischoff called them ingrates, said nobody had ever heard of them before he and Hogan showed up. AJ said Bischoff and Hogan had put a $1 million company out of business. He wasn't going to let them do it again. He said they hired guys who didn't deserve to be in wrestling. The crowd was chanting something. I believe they were saying, "We want 6 sides." Mm-hmm. That's their only concern. That's the only thing that matters about their show.
Actually. That was a great reason to never leave Orlando.
So, yes. So Bischoff said Hogan will be back on March 3rd, and AJ said he would kick their ass, and that was it.
Yeah, for those of you that didn't watch last week's show or have completely forgotten, which I wouldn't be surprised about, the main event last week was Angle and Crimson versus Immortal and Fortune. So that made awesome sense right there. Just fucking just ridiculous. And you know what?
Didn't Crimson lay out or strangle AJ at one point?
I believe he did. I'd have to go back and look at all of it. But the point is, this is just nonsensical, and it's all TNA's fault. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would sometimes... Listen, I've said this before in the case of TNA. Sometimes shit happens with TNA. Sometimes somebody gets hurt or something goes wrong. For example, the reason that Abyss and Doug Williams... The reason that match even took place was because of an injury to AJ Styles. There was nothing they could do about it. You know, it shit just happened there. But this was not a case of shit happening. This was a case of they decided they were going to an angle with certain guys that they didn't have under contract. And when the guy jumped ship to the other company, they had to come up with something new, and this is what they fucking came up with. So, there you go. It's all their own fault.
You could even say, if you're in a good mood, that it's not necessarily Vince Russo's fault.
This wouldn't be Vince Russo's fault. This would be
definitely TNA's fault.
Yes, Dixie's fault there.
Yep.